Son, I thought that was not
There's
allowed.
no condition in place today. The face mask.
Oh, so it's just.
The
I was still with protest that that wasn't allowed. They weren't allowed to cover the faces.
There's no conditions in place today, and I think that's been explained to you already, hasn't it?
No, not to me. No.
No. Okay. Do you want to get back on the other side, mate?
I don't need to, do I?
You don't need to, but it's just to try and just
No,
keep
I'm
that
not. I'm just.
distance if it helps.
I'm just on my own in the middle of nowhere, mate. Yeah, they're getting well looked after.
How are you, darling?
Are you alright?
Yeah, just back.
Do you know what? I feel for you. Hard this morning and pulled a muscle in my back. Oh no! I went, achoo! Is it alright now?
Oh, we've got one. Alright, we've got one viewer. Hi guys. Oh, Kev's first live stream on my new channel. So today I'm just here in support of Let Women Speak. So I didn't know if this is supposed to be on YouTube. I'm hoping this is linked to YouTube like, but we'll find out. My gimbal's packed itself in, my gimbal's not bloody working.
But no funny you've seen it's very funny. It's from home too. Have you ever seen it? It's really funny. That's all I really want to say really about it, right? Yeah, we got reason they don't. We don't have that. They see the whole time it's not trying right. We're just not gonna have it. We gotta
I'm just trying to listen, to see what they're saying, but I can't hear out.
This has never been a good idea before.
I think something about messing about with kids and having paedophile flags and stuff like that in public. I mean, how can you get away with it? Promoting paedophilia in public? Strange world we're living in. Well, we're going to have a look round there. I can't believe my gimbal's packed in. Right? Ah, if my bloody gimbal was working, faffing about with a phone. Well guys, the event doesn't start at 1 o'clock anyway, so I think we've got a couple of minutes before it starts. Nice turning route.
The good thing about it is that I do
Hashtag what?
How you doing? Keeping well, like?
Aye.
Aye. Good, good.
I wouldn't on Teams, but
There is a book.
great, and I've been back amongst it.
And that's the first time I've been out here to play at an event for ages.
Maybe rhyming.
Oh, you've got
Already got mine, I've already stick it up.
We're sad, and we're obviously mad, or something like that. It's distorted. Fashionista. So much. I like to think so. I decorate all my own jumpsuits. So, thanks. Fashion. Amazing. Right, okay. I might as well start before I keel over and die. Can I just say to you people that have come, not just miles, but a few degrees colder, especially Alison, who's come all the way from Brighton, thank you so much. And to all you people that could, oh, can I just say about the trans activists, every time you cheer or do something positive, it really makes them so cross. It's the equivalent of Mummy saying time to put the toys away. Really, quite the tantrum. Oh, little pug. I know what a dog is. Anyway, so
Does it sound
we've
okay,
come to
Shaz?
this amazing historic place, mainly because Liz and Kelly threatened me. Because there are some really organised women here who want to make a firm impact in their local area because they're very concerned about the march through the institutions and the co-opting of teachers in schools and even football clubs, I assume. So there's many women who have been raising concerns for quite some time, and one thing Let Women Speak does is we shine a great big light on exactly what is happening by inviting the boys to come out.
Nice one,
And then what
Charles,
happens
thanks.
is people just drive by and they think, oh, I wonder what's happening. And then they hear that you're all a bunch of fascists. And then they think, well, hang on a minute, because I'm sure I saw Marjorie from down the road and she's very nice. And then what they do is they look into the issue and then they find out that your council is captured, that your NHS is captured, that your schools are captured, that even, and nothing against the amazing police officers are here today who've been champion, I've got to say. But even higher up the food chain in the police force, where they don't have any say, and those management, they've forgotten what it's like to walk around on the streets and see actual crime. They have all these policies in place where these lovely officers might have to call John, she, he, they, them, she, they, depending on what day it is. And they might have to ask their non-binary little staff member how they need to be, did someone just say she, they, queen? All for the bants, boys. But it's happening in every institution, and the people that do the hard work in every institution, and I met a nurse yesterday, but the people who do the hard work in every single institution are not the people pushing the policies. Because they're too busy thinking about how do they most effectively fight crime, or how do they most effectively heal patients. So yesterday I met a nurse who had to retire from the NHS because during COVID she'd gone from a nurse specialising in childhood grief and dealing with the families of children who pass. She had to deal with lifting actual patients who'd passed, adults, and she'd end up with prolapsed discs. And she said that it was rampant through the NHS, and people had just forgotten to look after the frontline workers. And I think that's what's happening, certainly with the women in Darlington. That just saying, I'm going to do the accent, you're going to be offended, but I'm going to do it anyway, if possible.
We love your Geordie accent, man.
I just don't want to see a penis when I'm getting changed and that. And those women are told, well actually they're not even told much, are they? They're just passive aggressive signs on the front of their changing area. Apparently not wanting to see a man's naked body or a man to see your naked body is not a good enough thing anymore for women. We've got to have some sort of overt, beyond that justification as to why we don't want to see them. And it's sexual voyeurism, and it used to be assault and a crime, and now we've got to the point where we're the criminals for saying, I just don't want to see the penis. I don't. Right, anyway, I'm going to stop doing the accent. I probably won't. It's been very difficult walking around, and my husband and I walking around in the Metro Centre. And I remember when Metroland was there, by the way. And we're walking around, and every so often we're like, did you hear? Like, everyone's Geordie, it's so wonderful. What a wonderful place. How wonderful this place is. So, how I normally start this is not rambling, but I'm not very well. And we say this. What a day this has been. What a rare mood I'm in. Why, it's almost like being a... Oh, well done, well done. And we say these things, and to some people, they are practically weapons of mass destruction. No woman has a penis. No man has a vagina.
No man has a vagina.
There's no such thing as non-binary.
There's no such thing as non-binary.
And transitioning children is profound abuse.
Transitioning children is profound abuse.
And what we have here in your lovely little gathering is we have at least 3 candidates from the last general election who stood for Party of Women, which I'm just... And I was, look, it's the first outing we ever got, and we know we weren't going to win. I mean, I'm no Margaret Thatcher, despite the accusations. But we knew we weren't going to win, but we did want to have these conversations, and we did want to say these words in places where we knew we previously could not. The reason we meet in such beautiful places such as this park today is because we know that venues can't be trusted to actually keep their end of the bargain and let us have spaces to speak. That's why we came out into the open air, where they can... To people at home, let me just tell you, they're just playing like bad recorder music at this point. My primary school teacher would have been devastated, but that's like the extent of their opposition, which I think it's perfect, right? It is perfect. The gathering of those people over there, and I'll show people at home in a minute. But the gathering of those people over there, it is like the rise of the... I can't even. It's too cool. It's too cool. So anyway, so we meet in public, and the idea is that every woman who's ever wanted to speak about this, and maybe she feels powerless in her own home, maybe her teenagers are tyrants, maybe she doesn't feel that she can speak at work, maybe she feels that every time she tries to speak up for women's rights, because men have already co-opted the environment and they've already put themselves in the women's toilets, women have to come back from a position of defence and say, we don't want them in there, and it becomes a really difficult path. Rather than being consulted where we can happily say no, there is this retrospective thing where we are just assumed we give our consent to men in our spaces, and we don't. And so this is the place where some women find their courage to begin saying a word that they mean. It's just very short, and the word is no, and it doesn't require any more explanation than that. Do you want a man in your space? No. That's it. And then that's the end of the conversation. It's a bit like, do you want cherry bakewell with your tea? No, I don't. No, I'm on a diet. No, I don't particularly like almonds. You just say no. And so I just hope that what this does is it just plants a bit of a foundation for some of you that feel that you haven't been able to say it, or that you don't know that anyone else would also say it, giving you some strength in numbers, that actually there's bloody loads of women, some of us menopausal, where no is really quite a useful word, and we say it with far less care than we used to. Yeah. But many of us have also had children, and so we're also used to saying no and meaning it. And I think these children over there just haven't heard it often enough. So we'll just be saying it a bit more. Okay, who would like to speak? Yes? Go.
Oh, Shaz's sister.
Wow, a lot of you. I grew up in Morpeth a long time ago, and that's one of my reasons for speaking today. The other reason I wanted to speak today is because Emily Davison is a hero to me. Thank you. How are you, man, Burns? It was when I was growing up in the 70s that I first heard of Emily Davison. Her grave is in the cemetery, which is a very short walk from where I used to live. It's just over there. Debbie Harry was in the charts. Jane Fonda was establishing herself as a serious actress and a political activist. Margaret Thatcher was about to walk into number 10 Downing Street. It seemed to me that although women were still oppressed in many ways, we seemed to be running the show. And then to discover that less than 50 years before that time, we didn't even have the right to vote, it totally blew my mind. And that is when I became a feminist. So who is Emily Davison? Who was Emily Davison? Well, Emily was born in London, Blackheath, on the 11th of October, 1872. So it was a birthday a couple of days ago. Happy birthday, Emily! Happy birthday! Emily was given an education, which was very rare for women in those days, and she gained a degree, a first-class honours degree from Oxford University. But she never graduated. Why didn't she graduate? Because women were not allowed to have degrees, only men were permitted to have degrees. It was when she was teaching that she met the most renowned suffragette of all times, Emily Pankhurst. and she joined the Women's Political and Social Union, founded by Emmeline Pankhurst, to organise the fight for women to get the vote. So what did they do? Well, they'd already written to MPs, they'd had meetings, polite parades, demonstrations. Did the MPs listen? No, they didn't. They just ignored them. So they were forced to take more dramatic action in order to get noticed. They threw stones. They chained themselves to government buildings. They smashed the windows of government buildings. They set fire to post boxes. They even slashed a painting. Did they get noticed? No, they didn't. They were imprisoned. They were arrested. They were sent to jail, where they went on hunger strike. They refused to eat, and they were held down and forced fed. They had tubes rammed down their throats. They sustained life-changing injuries from that horrendous ordeal. Emily was imprisoned 8 times, and she was force-fed 49 times. Yeah. Emily, in 1913, attended the well-known Derby horse race held at Epsom Racecourse, and she took with her a scarf, probably similar to the one I'm wearing, in suffragette colours. She hoped to throw the scarf over the neck of the King's horse as it came past, a horse called Amna. But instead, she was struck and she sustained very serious injuries, which she died from 4 days later. And guess what? They brought her back to Morpeth. I know some of you ladies travel by train today. Well, that's where Emily arrived back in Morpeth, because Morpeth was her family's hometown, and that was the start of her funeral procession. What is very sad is that Emily never lived long enough to see women vote, because it wasn't until 15 years after her death that we finally got the vote, that everyone got the vote on equal terms to men in 1928. Emily was one of many women of the era who had a formidable fight on their hands, and they fought that fight. They faced that fight with boldness, unimaginable courage and determination. And Emily should be a tribute not just to women but to everyone, to stand up for what is right. So where are we now? It's nearly 100 years since we got the vote. Where are we? Things have moved on significantly. The Second World War transformed the way women were viewed, because suddenly we were having to do the men's jobs. And guess what? We did them every bit as good as the men. The 1970s saw the introduction of the Sex Discrimination Act and the Equal Pay Act, which were designed to improve women's position in employment and in the labour market. But despite all of this, life for women seems to be getting more and more ridiculous. The adversity, instead of easing, is worse. We have the age-old problems of the gender pay gap, of sexual violence, and more recently, we now have men who claim to be us being allowed in female-only hospital wards, prisons, toilets, changing rooms. Women's sports are being given away to mediocre men who claim to be us. They're taking our medals. Our language is being erased. The NHS is calling us chest feeders. They're calling us chest feeders, menstruators, birthing persons. It's utterly dehumanising. And now we're being silenced. We're not allowed to talk about this, because if we do, we're ostracised, sacked, even arrested. And it seems to be permissible for us to be screamed at, intimidated, called Nazis, called fascists. If Emily and the suffragettes were still alive today, I wonder what they would be fighting for, because we seem to have a bigger fight than ever before. We are losing our rights everywhere. We women and girls must wake up to the way history is going and remember how fragile and hard fought our rights are and how easy they are to lose. We must stand together against the erosion of our rights. We are connected. We are not a so-called gender. We are the female sex. We must be bold, courageous and determined. Just like Emily and that pioneering group of women who got us the vote not that long ago. Just ordinary women who stopped at nothing to get their voices heard. Let's keep the spirit of the suffragettes alive. Can I share a quote from Emily in Pankhurst, which I think has particular resonance to us? We women are roused. Now that we are roused, we will never be quiet again. Now, what she was saying when she said that, what she was saying was that when women get stirred up and when they get angered and then when they get determined, there's no stopping them. Heaven and earth cannot stop them. They will be heard. Can you see the parallel? Let women speak. We will speak. We will be heard. We women are roused. Now we are roused, we will never be quiet again.
Thank you. Let me just say, if you're struggling to hear, we can all come in a little bit. We can be more cozy if you like. It's probably more difficult to hear if you're here because there's no... You can hear? Okay. I don't think what the trans activists don't realise is I personally love it when they turn up, because it makes it just a little more fun for everyone. And it also means that local press take interest because they make it some sort of two-sided affair. I just want to remind everybody who's trying to construct a narrative over what is happening here. Some women are coming to speak using some words, and some spoiled brats are trying to stop us. So that's the narrative. We just want to speak about our rights. We want to speak about our spaces, our sports, our children, our safety, safeguarding for our children, in schools, the fact that unions are totally captured by this mindless nonsense. And those people over there, they stand with the elites who want to shut us up because most of us come from relatively normal families where things actually matter, where we have to pay a mortgage, we have to pay some bills, and mummy and daddy, they haven't sent us to a nice university so that we can go and mess around with all our fees and our grants and come and harass middle-aged women. I don't know if you saw what happened at the LGBT Alliance, but I feel like some of those escapees are here with us now. All those little cockroaches and crickets. Bit of animal cruelty, wasn't it, as well, going along with the homophobia, I felt. How exciting for them. So anyway, I'm just trying to hear, I don't know if you can hear, are there Geordie accents in amongst the trans activists?
No.
I don't think so, are there? It's not like, why I man trans liberation, like, it's not, is it? It's more like trans liberation. It's more like my accent, rather than a regional one, which just makes me smile. Anyway, who else would like to speak? Yes. Boys, you need to invest in a PA system. That's right, you cannot have a regional accent, but still perfectly valid.
Thank you. So the last time I spoke at a Let Women Speak event in Newcastle 2023, I was assaulted by a TRA. The upshot of that rather unpleasant incident was that I amassed a Twitter following almost overnight and was able to connect with other women passionate about advocating for same-sex care. We have set up our own organisation called Caring About Dignity and launched our website caringaboutdignity.org in November 2023. The purpose of the website is to collect the stories and amplify the voices of those who receive care in their own home, hospital or residential home, along with their advocates and carers, to reveal the widespread issues concerning dignity in care. The stories we have collected so far include the testimony of a male carer who was asked by employers to continue to go to women's houses who had declined male carers to see if they would change their minds. We have also heard from women who described feeling completely vulnerable, gaslit and voiceless in their own home as they are made to choose between no care or a male carer providing intimate care, including washing their intimate parts. Parents have contacted us because they cannot take respite care as their care provider refuses to guarantee female-only care for their highly disabled adolescent daughter. And this is just the tip of the iceberg. One must wonder how many women with advanced dementia, for example, dependent on help in their own homes, are being sent male carers and are unable to raise the alarm, unable to assert their bodily autonomy. At Caring About Dignity, we pay particular attention to CQC Regulation 10, Dignity and Respect. This regulation explicitly recognises the right to request staff of a specified gender/sex, and every reasonable effort must be made to fulfil this. This regulation is based on Health and Social Care Act 2008 and the Equality Act 2010. It is important to note that while sex is a protected characteristic in the Equality Act 2010, gender is not. There is the protected characteristic of gender reassignment, but not gender. Interestingly, many care providers conveniently drop the word sex from their guidance on the website and their own policies, allowing them to rely on the ambiguous term gender, a word with no stable definition. By ignoring the word sex and focusing instead on gender, care providers are stripping vulnerable women and girls of their imperative sex-based rights to safe and effective care. Another pertinent regulation is Regulation 11, Need for Consent. This regulation is key to advocating for women and girls' right to female-only care. This is because failure to comply with this standard can result in prosecution. For example, if a male is sent with the intent to perform intimate care duties on a woman, despite her express wishes for female-only care, should he touch her without her consent, he will have committed sexual assault. So, while a legal framework exists in this country to protect a woman's right to female-only care, the framework is not being suitably enforced and seems not to be robust enough to ensure their safety across care settings. Indeed, journalists from Sky News and The Independent have recently exposed the systematic failure of NHS England's mental health trusts to safeguard vulnerable women accessing their services. Journalists made 50 Freedom of Information requests to NHS England mental health trusts and obtained 38 responses as part of their investigation into allegations of rape and sexual assault in mixed-sex wards and shared spaces in NHS England psychiatric care. Nearly 20,000 sexual safety incidents were reported on inpatient mental health wards between 2019 and 2023. And these numbers appear to be rising year on year. In January 2024, the press reported on a case in which an NHS nurse allegedly sexually assaulted an 85-year-old woman whom he had cared for. Stephen Hicks is accused of attending the woman's private home where she lived alone in January 2022 and sexually assaulting her. According to the prosecutor, Hicks, claiming to be checking the woman's mobility, put his hand just into and his face against her vagina. Another particularly harrowing case, detailed by Dr. Margaret Flynn in the Brent Safeguarding Adults Board Review in July 2018, is that of Cassie, an autistic non-verbal woman with severe learning disabilities. Cassie had lived in institutions since childhood. 2013 saw her health begin to deteriorate with no apparent cause. In time, she was tested for HIV and a positive result was returned. It was determined that the HIV had been sexually transmitted. Because of the magnitude of Cassie's learning disabilities, she did not have the capacity to consent to sexual relations, and so we can conclude that she must have been raped. The only men who had access to her were the male care staff in the institution she resided in, her home. The perpetrators, or perpetrator, have not been identified and could possibly still be working there, or indeed another institution where they have access to vulnerable women like Cassie. These are just a few examples of stories about vulnerable women dependent on care facing male violence. The reality is that very few such stories make the press or are ever heard, and very few of the male perpetrators are ever prosecuted. Often, women are reluctant or embarrassed to report abuse. They worry that they may be labelled a troublemaker, that they could have their care packages rescinded, or that they may be unable, due to their condition, to bear witness to these crimes in the eyes of the law. It is a point of fact that many women and girls feel safer with female-only care provisions in place, and evidence of male violence against vulnerable females relying on care shows that their concerns around who delivers their care are well founded. The least that can be done in terms of safeguarding them from male violence is to ensure that their requests for same-sex care are both respected and adhered to. The issue of same-sex care provisions can and does affect women and girls of all ages at any time. This is a serious issue which does not get enough light and affects every female in the country. Thank you.
I think when all of us first heard of this and we heard that actually you can just bend the truth just to suit you, I think we all thought about these most vulnerable people, and I sort of almost used to say it to be dramatic, like the logical conclusion of this nonsense is that very vulnerable women in care would be subjected to male violence with those men pretending to be women. And I don't know if I ever thought that really was absolutely going to be the case. But recently I had a woman call into Turf Talk who said that she used to be an ER nurse, and then she got a chronic illness, very rare, and she's been under different consultants in different fields of medicine for 10 years. And one of them she goes to is sort of gynecological issues that she has as a result of her chronic illness. And he just asked her, do you want a chaperone? And she said, yes, please. And then she's lying there, being examined, and she looks down, and she thinks, well, that's not the feet of a woman. And we sort of, honestly, I used to say it for drama, like your chaperone could be a man, and then there's two men in the room, and there's just you. But that actually happened to her. And what makes it worse is she can't say anything because she doesn't want to destroy the relationship with a consultant that she's built up over 10 years. And if any of you have got any experience with anyone with chronic illness, they spend a number of years not being believed, not being diagnosed, not being treated, being told to go away, being told that whatever their condition is, it's not serious, it's stress. So when you find someone that takes you seriously, you really don't want to jeopardize that relationship. But also, if that consultant told her that that was a man, he's guilty of gross misconduct for outing a pervert, a pervert in their place of work. So he would be guilty of saying, well, yes, AGP. You don't even have the balls to be an AGP. So that's what the situation is with many of these people. Their hands are completely tied, which is why, absolutely, the first fundamental thing we have to do is to repeal the GRA. There have always been deviants in our society. There have always been deviants in our society. We didn't used to celebrate it. We didn't used to make them the centre of every workforce. And I don't know if you know, but I've recently been unlisted by my doctor, which was a bit of a pain in the arse considering how unwell I felt for the last week, because I still don't have a GP. But I was unlisted for questioning the orthodoxy, for saying I don't think it's appropriate to wear the political symbol of he, him, especially on your very large female body. But I don't think it's an appropriate political symbol for work. I don't think any politics are. I don't care if you had a Party of Women badge. It's just not appropriate. And for that, I was enlisted from my GP. But before I hand over to someone else, I just want to talk about the other thing. It's not just men working in these wards. There was a man called, I want to call him Rachel Diaz. A man called Rachel Diaz who got his kicks by wearing PVC nurses' uniforms out. Like white, something out there like a 1980s police academy kind of movie. PVC top, PVC zip dress, boots, fishnets. That was his kink. Well, he got to do that every day at work because he was head of a mental health ward, a chronic female mental health ward. And the first thing he did, celebrated by the women around him in this meeting when he announced it, is he moved his office to where those women slept. That's the first thing he did. And do you know how many women stood in his way? Not one. Not one person stood up for those women on that ward. And we know what that means. We know that women can't talk about it. There was a case really early on in this fight, 2016, 2017 in the Times. A woman had gone to one of these wards, and the person next to them she recognised was a man in this female-only ward, and she told the nurses, and they recorded her as a transphobic bigot in her medical notes. And 5 years later, she called me and she said, I've just seen the man that was next to me in the ward. He's just been caught with 80,000 images of child rape. All the women on that ward knew he was wrong, even whether he was wearing a dress or whether he called himself Rebecca, whatever he did, everybody recognised that he was a threat to women. And they were all told that they had to put up and shut up and that they were bigots for recognising it. But you know, we all know a creepy man when we see one. And I've yet to see one who I wouldn't describe as creepy wearing women's clothes. So anyway, that's my 2 pence. But if we can get rid of the foundation of this, the thing that legitimised all of it, It is the GRA and the Equality Act that recognises something called gender reassignment. It just has to go. Okay, who else would like to speak? Yes. I'll make it a bit. Ooh. Oh, you look taller over there. I'll try and show you. You just have to make sure that you're speaking directly into it.
Okay. Okay, this is my first time. I've been compiling a list of euphemisms for women that are used by mainstream media and the medical profession rather than actually calling us women. So it's all right, there's not a huge amount. So partners with eggs, and none of these are duplicated. People with uteri, people with vaginas, bleeding bodies, people with internal reproductive systems,
that's nice.
people with a period, lactating employees, egg producing, gestating progenitor, that came from Spain, bleeders, menstruators, people with a cervix, birthing people, egg producing individual, bodies with vaginas, gestational carrier, cervix haver, bodies with vaginas, female parent, chest feeders, folks who are capable of getting pregnant, all who bleed, factory setting women, people with internal gonads, nursing parent, pregnant people, pregnant patients, birthing patients, people who menstruate, childbearing people, providers of care, people with ovaries, and this one came from Vogue, non-prostate owners, non-men, non-trans women, just a minute, I'll just turn my page, natural guardian birthing parent, non-trans women, I think I've said that one, people born with female reproductive organs. Then since March 24, because I thought, well, we must have hit the peak now, but we haven't. People with a cycle, anyone with ovaries, lactating person, ovary owner, that came from The Guardian, member of the species who produces eggs to be fertilised, female assigned reproductive systems, individuals with vaginal autonomy, gestational parent, gestational host, pregnant participant, masculine people with vaginas, anyone with a cervix, those with a cervix, people who gave birth, those people who menstruate, uterus bearers, people with pregnancy potential, people who have periods, non-binary people with female reproductive organs, the parent who gestates, persons with childbearing potential, pregnant individuals, people born with ovaries, adults who menstruate, and an open-ended question. Thank you very much.
Wow. Wow. There you go, ladies. If you don't want to be identified as a woman, there's a list you can choose from. What mental case?
I don't think we all have bicycles, do we? Okay, who else would like to speak? Yes.
Mental.
Legend, boys, it's legend.
Afternoon, DJ Amanda, how's it going?
Oh, let me do it this way, actually. They don't keep it up for long, do they? I think it's a mask, stop them being able to breathe properly. Yeah? Okay. Hello, women of Morpeth. Hello! How the devil are you? Champion! You can guess by my accent, I'm not from these parts, so why am I here? Well, Kelly J came up to Scotland, not once but twice, to help us in our struggle over self-ID and the Hate Crime Act. And when I saw what they did to her the other week, I thought, fuck it, I'm marching south.
Over 100 years ago, the suffragettes said, courage calls to courage. And by God, Kelly J, you have it in bucket loads. And your courage is contagious. You've given us everyday women the guts to speak up. Whether we are young or old, and no matter our background, you have inspired this grassroots movement like nobody else has or could. Well, here is the question. What is the opposite of courage? Is it cowardice, deceit, treachery, possibly a combination of all three? And here is a shining example. Nicola Sturgeon, destroyer of women's rights. And can I tell you, Kelly J, women from across the political spectrum have come together over this, and we bought these stickers and they're everywhere. Right. Anyway, today is about women and our rights that are under attack. But after yesterday's shocking news, I'd like to briefly mention someone else who had courage, Alex Salmond. After leaving the SNP, Alex went on to found the Alba Party. At the first conference in 2021, while on stage, he was asked, "What is a woman, Alex?" There was no dithering and cowardly evasion like John Swinney and Keir Starmer and the rest of those spineless cretins. No, he answered, a woman is an adult human female. He must have read your billboard. To loud applause, I might add. Hopefully that festering scandal which makes Watergate sound tame will soon be revealed. The powers that be in the SNP are cacking it, by the way. And Nicola Sturgeon, don't mention his name again. Right, where am I? Not that I'm annoyed. So, to the parents going through hell, to the confused young people caught up in this cult who might have doubts, and to those afraid of losing their jobs, keep strong, have courage, the truth shall out. However, to those politicians, doctors, journalists, lawyers, civil servants and companies that support this dangerous cult, hell mend the lot of you. You have peddled a damaging lie that harms women and children, but you will find out soon enough that, in the words of J.K. Rowling, karma is a turf. So today, let us celebrate this grassroots movement to women, truth and courage. Thank you, Morpeth, and thank you, Kelly J. Slanger.
Ah, dear. Okay. From this Kelly to another Kelly. This is one of our candidates from the election. Come on, Kelly!
Hello everyone, my name's Kelly and I wanted to come and show you all my t-shirt. So this is a priceless t-shirt, you can't buy them in the shops, and I got this as a gift of Kelly J for standing in the election, and the 5077 is the number of votes that the 16 candidates got. And I've already shared a few reasons why I got involved in this, and but today I want to share a really personal reason why, and I was going to give it to someone else to do, but I decided, I showed it to my husband and he said that's really powerful, you need to do it yourself. So I've cried several times thinking about doing it, and I'm hoping I'm not going to cry today, but bear with me if I do. And I've written it down because usually when I stand up here my mind goes completely blank. So why does society undermine mothers? Is it because we're powerful? What they say is the hand that rocks the cradle rules the world. So I have a family, and when I decided to stop dealing with their bullshit and their abuse, my whole birth family turned on me and they undermined me as a mother. First they went for my son, who was 16 at the time, he hadn't left school. They supported him to breach our curfew of 10 o'clock to come home. They encouraged him not to tidy up. You know, all the usual things that you say no to about tidying up and coming home for lovingly prepared dinner. No, you don't have to do that. So he came home and he told me that if I didn't let him do whatever he wanted, then he would move out. So I had this stark choice about what I had to do, and I had two other other children at home as well, and I needed to set an example to them. I can't just say give in, so I had to say, well, you'll have to go then, and that was really hard, and I was so upset. So he left and I was quite bereft, but I knew I was in the right. I had to say no. And then they came for my daughter. She was 11 or 12 at the time. So I've got 3 children. My middle son I still have a good relationship with. But they came for my daughter who was 11 or 12. My own mother went to my ex-husband's work and she told him that I was abusing my daughter. And I didn't know any of this that was happening, but until I got a letter from the court. So they all went behind my back. They encouraged her to lie about where she was. And it's really long and complicated, so I've kind of cut out some of the detail, but basically it ended up with my whole birth family, my ex-husband and all of his family, CAFCAS, which is the court, it's a government organisation who support children in the court system. The school and children's services were all against me. The police were called. They found no evidence of abuse, but children's services continued to treat me as if I was an abuser. So my daughter's behaviour became worse and worse. And really it was really difficult to function as a family. All of the adults in my daughter's life were encouraging her to lie about what was happening at home. And she liked the attention, and she liked getting things bought for her and people saying yes to her, whereas I was saying no. So yeah, she thought I was horrible because I was setting boundaries and I was the only one who was saying no, which is what she needed. So Children's Services wrote a report recommending that my daughter went to live with her father, which took into my manipulated daughter's wishes and feelings and painted me to be incompetent and uncaring. And when the court case came, I couldn't even face going because I knew I was going to be humiliated, so I didn't go. And I'd been through so much abuse when they decided that, they started using my children against me to abuse me as well. So I had to make a decision about whether I was going to continue putting up with that behaviour or whether I had to cut out everybody from my life, all my family. And that's what I chose. I chose me, and 12 years later I'm still bereft about it. I'm still really upset. So my son's going to be 30 this year and my daughter's 24, and I haven't seen them since that happened 12 years ago, but they're doing well from what I've seen. And for over 10 years I wasn't able to tell anybody what had happened. I just didn't have the language. I didn't know what to say. When I tried to tell people, it just came out in a jumble. People were just stunned. They didn't know what to say to me. I didn't know if they believed me or whether they thought I was a monster like the court did. So it's been quite challenging. So I complained at the time about the organisations, and I did have some success. Some individuals they lost their jobs, and some of the services were reviewed, but that's never going to repair the relationship I had with my children. I've lost them. And when I found out that children were being transed at school behind their parents' back, I just know it's the same thing happening to other women. And I knew I had to stand and say something because what I've been through is just horrendous. And I don't want any other women to go through what I've been through. Because the government don't know what's best for children. Teachers don't know what's best for children. And social workers certainly don't behave like they know what's best for children. Mothers do. That's all I want to say.
You don't mind wearing these glasses. 'Cause I've got far too much mascara on for Kelly's story. I think we know that there's something really deeply disturbing about our schools at the moment, and about how teachers have somehow been convinced, like teachers who don't have kids, they're barely out of university, who've been told somehow that they know better about children and children's welfare than parents. Teachers who are willing to keep secrets. I've spoken to teachers who quite gleefully told me that they are talking to children behind their parents' back about binding, about getting their breasts removed, about being non-binary, about all these nonsensical, stupid, harmful, dangerous things. And these teachers genuinely, if you haven't read anything about the Red Army, I beg of you, just go home and just read a chapter. You can even use Wikipedia, which is normally not very reliable. And Lisa Morgan is in the crowd, and her and I have been discussed repeatedly in a federal court in Australia for some of the entries on Wikipedia. But they are the Red Army. They genuinely do. They have been indoctrinated and manipulated into thinking that they are doing good. Now that thinking doesn't go very deep, as you can imagine. It's not deep level thinking, it's not critical thinking. It's just being given some sort of magic wand to repair the damage and the way they feel about themselves. And so they're given this sort of little bit of power, and that's what some of these teachers are using, because they think that you want to harm your own children. And so they think if they can step in, rather than, oh, those scarves, if they can come in and they can, rather than focus on their own inadequacy, and they are so mediocre and inadequate, as opposed to focusing on that and fixing stuff, they can just focus on your child, wave a magic little wand where they convince your child that it's great to be whatever it is that child says, and hey presto, they become a magically good human being. Because that's all it takes. Because, I don't know, maybe it's because there is no happy ever after that we can promise this particular generation. Perhaps it's because they've lost the connection between hard work, patience and reward. Because actually, they can just say, I bought myself a lovely scarf and a mask, and I'm non-binary, and everyone go, oh my God, you've achieved so much. What an achievement, what an achievement. Did you write any, have you done research, written anything, done anything, achieved anything? No, I haven't actually done a day's work or paid a bill. I've not really ever achieved anything. I've just kind of meandered through, but I am non-binary. Well, fuck me, that's enough, isn't it? That's enough. Yeah. Did you get yourself a library card? Maybe read some books? No. Didn't bother doing any of that. I just joined a group and they've got a flag. Wow. And I genuinely think that's where they are. What are you doing this weekend? Oh, I'm going to go and stand in a park, wave a flag at some middle-aged women. Well, you really have made it. You really have made it. And I just reflect as well, seeing these high-vis officers, and I think they go home to, and most of them are men, and it's by the by, but they go home to their significant others and they say, "Did you have a nice shift, love? Oh, sorry, did you have a nice shift, pet?" And they say, "Why, aye, champion." And she says, "What were you doing?" "Well, I was in a park because there were some men, like, protesting." Old women? Well, what were those old women saying? Well, they just don't want penises in their space and that. I mean, can you imagine? There will be times where these officers are sent to genuine crime, to really horrific scenes, where we are all, each and every one of us, we know that we really feel so much better. If we're walking home and you see a police officer or even a police car, you know you feel a bit safer, right?
No.
Or if you're on a train, well, you might not, but then that might be because what you're doing. But as a woman, we know that we do genuinely feel safer with police specifically in this park today. And there are times when we'd all like to call the police, like if we're in our homes on our own, as I was one night, and a car came racing into my drive and then just sat there ready to move. I knew that calling the police was the perfect thing to do, because that's what I feel police should be doing. It's genuinely protecting us from bad people. They shouldn't have to stand in a park so that we can speak. That is absolutely insane.
Yeah.
Anyway, enough of my lipstick on this microphone. Who else would like to speak? Yes? We can't hear you. Your thing is distorted. You need to just upgrade. Better sound equipment. Won't cost that much. Just do 1 day's work. Just 1 day. And you can afford a nice PA system like I've got. It's the Cookie Monster, everyone!
Yeah. Can everybody see me okay? Hi, my name's Angie, and I want to tell you about something that happened. Oh, yeah, okay. Something that happened at my PCS Union conference in Brighton last year. There was a motion, A52, which called for PCS to call for strike action on any anti-trans guidance, whatever that is. It also called for the union to mobilise for trans rights at protests and demonstrations. This was just after women were horrified to see their PCS union flag at Let Women Speak Edinburgh on the side of the people who were trying to drown out the women speaking. In a daunting and hostile environment, one brave woman called Jan Baxter stepped up to the podium to oppose the motion. Picture this, Jan with her lesbian gatekeeper t-shirt on the big screen in Brighton. Now I'm going to try and channel me inner Jan here for you, but this is her speech anyway. At least I'm among friends here, but she was in the bear pit. I founded a lesbian and gay switchboard in a rural area when there was no support for lesbian, gay, bisexual and even trans people, and we treated everybody with fairness. I was proud secretary for several years. That's the PCS LGBT committee. I was our representative to the TUC LGBT committee for several years. I am not a person who's full of hatred, and I'm not a person who doesn't know what they're talking about. What I have seen lately is things like this. The harassment of trans and non-binary people. The harassment, we talk about trans and LGBT people. We say that, you know, rights aren't a pie and you can't have more, but it is a pie. There's only so much to go around. The Equality Act that the Labour Party brought in protects all of us. Every single one of us in this room is covered by two protected characteristics, and which is the one that we all talk about. Trans people have exactly the same rights as you or I do. That's the point here. And there was actually some clapping in the auditorium at that point. What they do want, what do they want that's more? They are not protesting or demonstrating for more rights. What they are doing is turning up where women are defending hard-won rights that the union movement won for us, and they're turning up trying to drown us out loudly. Do you want to see PCS flags and banners raged against women when they're trying to talk about their rights that we fought for? I don't think so. I'd like to see us be more solid on this matter, and it won't happen if we keep giving one side of the boat more ballast. We have to act together on this. You have to listen to the voices of disabled people, of our black members and everybody else. We have to balance those rights. And the reason that we're losing so much work that we're doing in the D&I space in our day jobs is because people made it an ideological issue instead of the jobs that we do as civil servants, which is look after the public and look after our members.
While we do that, we are always going to lose against people like the Tory government, and the Labour government will not turn round and do us any favours. It's a popular issue amongst the public who, let's not forget, more than 50% of the population is female. Please oppose this motion. Please have a think about what you're doing and use some critical thinking skills. Thank you. Unfortunately, the motion was carried. But if you want to see the real Jan's speeches, go to X and see Fiona MacDonald's brilliant thread that she done on the 22nd of May 2024. And remember to be more Jan.
Oh, come on, put your back into it. They're trying to say a slogan about me, legend or something. Rosie Parker's a legend. They just can't do it together. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Go on, boys. No, lost it. No. That was your chance. That was your chance. I even trying to help them, people at home. Trying to help them get it together, but there's like and then there's a bit of Cookie Monster going on, which pleases me. Or Animal, maybe Animal. Honestly, anyone? I mean, I just get, my granny went deaf when she was quite young, and I keep thinking, am I deaf, or are they? They're not audible, are they? It's brilliant, brilliant. They send their best every time. And what they do for all of us is I don't know, maybe you're having a low ego day, and maybe this can help you, because it's certainly helping me feel, I don't know, like I'm some sort of part of the intelligentsia, which I can't even say, so that's how clever I am. Who else would like to speak? Yes.
Hi everyone. My name's Philippa, and this is my first time here. Regarding schools, I just want to talk a little bit about my daughter. She started senior school and she was quite young. She was 11 in the July. She went really excited to go to the library, and her first trip to the library she came home with this book. It's called, Queerly Autistic, The Ultimate Guide for LGBTQIA+ teens on the spectrum. Now, a couple of the chapters, I'll just tell you the names of the chapters, bearing in mind my daughter's just 11. Oral sex, fingering, hand jobs, sex toys, talking about rape and abuse. So obviously I was mortified when I seen this in her school bag, and I rang the school and I was given the total run around. Nobody wanted to hear me. I kept pressing to have a meeting with our head of year. My husband and I went in to have a meeting, and they sent the Pride Club guy wearing a Pride lanyard, so we looked at each other as if to say, this is all just going to fall on deaf ears anyway. I threatened to pull her out of the school because it's just, she's too young. It's not even suitable for a 16-year-old. She's far too young. And all I got was apologies that the librarian was off and she got it by mistake, and just pass the book, pass the book, pass the book. She wanted to go to Pride Club to see what it was about, so I let her go. And I asked her what they did, and she said they watched a movie, and that was it. But they were with 16-year-olds. I don't know what them 16-year-olds were telling her. The teachers got there's one teacher, and loads of children have all of a sudden decided they're so they've all gone to Pride Club. I don't know what's getting said. She's too young. So I asked them why it was necessary to have a Pride Club just to watch a movie? Why not have an after-school club and make everyone included? Because saying it's all-inclusive is excluding people who aren't on this crazy bandwagon. Sorry, I'm... When I talked to the school, I called and asked about this Pride Club, and I was told that, I said, I just don't agree with it. I don't agree with this message that you're pushing on these children, you know. And I was told, I was cut off mid-sentence and told that that wasn't her opinion, this lady's opinion, and she thought that children had the right to be who they are, and she basically, that was the end of the conversation. She just did not want to hear me. Now, if that's her opinion, that's fine, but surely as a teacher, you should liaise with parents and hear the parents' concerns and take them on board, not just cut a parent off because you think you know better. Cody, I know you hate people blowing smoke up your arse, but I'm going to do it anyway because you've changed my life and woke me up, and I love you so much, and thank you so much.
Not the men, though.
Thank you so much. I mean, I guess look, I'm stubborn and I'm bloody minded, and I've always had a voice.
So proud, aren't I?
Some may say I was precocious. I don't know if that is true. It sounds true, but I've always thought that whatever I think about something is worthwhile, and I want every woman to feel that. You don't have to agree with me, although you'll be wrong if you don't. You don't have to agree with me, but you do have to know that your voice is important enough that you will speak it at times when you feel it needs using, like you would if it was your friend, like you would if you saw someone else. You have to treat yourself like you're your best mate, and I don't mean that in a new age, come by our way. I just mean that sometimes we're happy to look out for others, but we forget that whatever our feelings are and our concerns are, they're just as important. So I really hope, and thank you for saying that, I really hope that is something that, if I do nothing else but tell you that you are important enough to speak about how you feel about things, then I think I've done my job. You ruined my makeup. Let me just say about schools, I just want to be really, really clear about schools and why I genuinely think that as soon as there's one activist visit or one activist in a school, the school is broken, totally broken. Because what those teachers would have been told in their little indoctrination classes is that if they don't affirm, if they don't promote this ideology, then kids are going to kill themselves. Then kids are going to grow up feeling so terrible. And can't you remember how bad it was for Dave, who grew up gay, and Dave felt like he was a bad person, and now he's come out and he wishes that he could have redone it, which is the whole point of that guy from Outsiders, No Outsiders. He's reinventing his childhood into queering the classroom. And what does that mean? That means every single person in the classroom, whether you're a 3-year-old at kindergarten, or whether you're a 56-year-old teaching assistant, you all have a sexual and gender identity. Now that might sound far-fetched, but let me just say in Victoria, no it wasn't, Western Australia, in their government guidance to parents, it talks about children having a sexual identity even when they're in nappies, from birth, that you have a sexual identity. They will talk, the man that authored one of the Australian Safe Schools programs, and I would imagine you find one of these in every single safe, anything to do with safe and schools that includes LGBT indoctrination. I guarantee there will be a little Venn diagram with someone with an over-interest in children, and that may sound alarmist, but I've yet to look at an organisation where it isn't true. So, the man wrote that the sexual relationship and the love that a mother and father have for their children is the same as a paedophile has for a child. And then he went on to co-author the Australian Safe Schools that's implemented in their schools. It is not a coincidence. Blurring boundaries and erasing safeguarding goes hand in hand with easier access to children. And if they can demonise you parents, and especially mothers, if they can demonise us because we are the last line of defence between people who wish harm to children and our children. You can't trust anyone else to do right by your kids. You have to do it yourself. Because as soon as the state gets involved, and I know there's plenty on the left who talk about, well, socialist feminists, I don't even know if they're on the left. But there's plenty of people that sort of say it's alarmist. It doesn't really happen. We shouldn't really go down. Yeah, we should go down that road. Safeguarding has to be 100% black and white. You are either allowed access to a child or you're not. You're allowed to talk about sex to a child or you're not. You're allowed sexualised books in the library or you're not. There is no kind of halfway to this. Now, when I went into a school with a parent, and if anyone wants me to come into school with them, I'm more than happy. I'll come in with you. I'll come in with you. Shall we go in? I'm more than happy every day of the week. It's a lot more fun than sitting in my office in my studio. But we went into a primary school. I'm just going to tell you, honestly, they lied. The two safeguarding leads lied to that parent's face. And everyone was trying to be polite. Well, that's not my role. My role is not to be polite. I'm not aggressive, but I'm what you call firm. And so when she was saying, oh no, these books, they're nothing about gender identity, about a red crayon with a blue crayons, whatever, and it wrote in red, but it was supposed... And she said it was nothing to do with that. You know, some children have some things that they like and some children have others. That was the first line, right? Then she accidentally let it slip that some blue children, some blue crayons, like football. And some red crayons like ballet. I was like, oh, like boys and girls then. Is that what you're on about? Stereotypes, boys and girls. No. And I said, how did the book get into the school? But bearing in mind, this is like a 10-minute conversation on how the book is not about gender identity. Well, I know that's how some schools might use it, yes. I know some schools might use it for gender identity. That's not how we used it for gender identity. It wasn't about pushing that. And I said, okay, so how did the book get into the school? Oh, it's part of the No Outsiders program. I mean, it's just, her child was autistic. She was 7 years old. She said, would my daughter get in trouble if she called that boy a girl? Because she would recognise that boy as a boy. Yes, she'd be reprimanded as if she were a bully. And then the final one was about residential trips. And the boy, who called himself a girl, would be in a room with girls, and parents would not be told. And this is primary school. Now, there are cases, and I'm sure my lovely friends from Brighton will know better about this, but there are cases where girls have been sexually assaulted on school trips by boys because they call themselves boys, and they're put in boys' dormitories on residential trips, and the parents don't go and tell anyone because they're still affirming their daughter, and they'd rather affirm their daughter as a boy than recognise she's been sexually assaulted as a girl by boys because they put her into a very dangerous position. So I just want you to be acutely aware. The school is no longer on your side, and I feel terrible for saying that because I know there's some amazing teachers. But I do wish you'd spoken up a long time ago. This has been going on since 2015. I was told by a worker in a school in 2015 they weren't allowed to say good boy or good girl in lunch. They were no longer allowed to say boys and girls. This has been going on for a long time. We've all been fast asleep. And whilst they've been doing it, we've all been thinking it's not that big a deal. You know, oh, okay, they don't say good boy and girl. We're not thinking, oh, because they want to pretend boys and girls don't actually exist anymore. And that's to do with this trans thing. And do you know why? Because the people that have orchestrated this takeover, they've been thinking about it for decades. They've been so far ahead of the game. And it's very clever. And it's so clever that some people still don't know what's going on. and they still think it's a nice, kind thing, that word inclusion. Isn't it so lovely? But like a previous woman said, inclusion means often excluding women. Inclusion often means excluding safeguarding. That's what it does. It totally blindsides you to what's really happening, which often is women are just put to the bottom of the pile, and if you dare to moan about it, you will just be told off for your complaint. Nobody's actually going to listen to you, which is why we need to keep listening to each other and keep boosting each other. And this is the inaugural one, and women, wow, haven't you done well? Haven't they done well, all the local women organising this? Who else would like to speak? Yes? Oh, yes, come on. You! You may recognise this lady from the sidebar of chat. And...
I've come here with my sister. She's 75. It's her first ever rally. I'd like to think it was months and months of listening to her sister that proved it. You'd think, wouldn't you? Riley Gaines, radio interview, 2 minutes. What a cheek. Anyway, I've written a poem. It's called Canker on the Bough. If I can find it. I'm on tablets and they make me memory short. You stole our rights by stealth, moving in the fog at night as women slept, where dreams begin. At heel, those ravenous wolves, misogyny and spite, crept ever closer in. You say, be kind, yet you bay for our blood. Poison the earth with your lies. Test our nerve to speak. Mow your scythe over opening buds before their summer's reached. You furrow history, feed it rancor, drag the revisionist plough, forage fiction from the air, plant the seed of a child's despair. On the tree of knowledge, you are a canker on the bough. You want us weak, alone, afraid. We are the stone that will break your blade. This is the land where turfs are made. You are the mite that burrows under our skin, a parasite, a wasp that eats our children from within. We have awakened, rallied to the fight, others too unite. Soon truth will win, and you shall be disarmed. May God forgive you for all the children you have harmed.
You may have recently read about some courageous women in Darlington who stood against the NHS, and they're starting a women's union. I'm not going to point to her, but there is one of them here. Can we just say thank you? Oh, I feel a bit emotional. I just think it often just takes one moment to find an otherwise ordinary, and I mean that in the most lovely way, ordinary woman, and just transform her into something just extraordinary. And her courage is just so admirable. And I suspect there's many of us here today who had no idea that we had much courage until the moment came upon us where we had to find it, and we thought, oh, Yeah, I'm alright actually. I have courage after all, and it really is infectious. And the story of the nurses in Darlington who just basically said, "You're having a laugh, aren't you?" No. And took it further, and I would imagine it was quite shocking when you realised I don't know what you're saying, but I don't have any vegetables. Sounded like veg. Did it sound like veg? Did it sound like veg? I don't have any vegetables. I bet you don't eat yours either. But it's like when I think most of us think, I thought when I put the billboard up, right, I thought I'm going to put the dictionary definition of the word woman up, and then the trans activists are going to be like that, and everyone's going to go, "Oh my God, I can't believe it. Oh, you're so right. Well, we'll just stop it now. They'll all stop." That woman putting that billboard up was just so magnificent. Did you know what was going on? And everyone would go, "Well, there's men and women's spaces," and they'd go, "Oh, well, let's stop that then." Instead, it was like, didn't even get mentioned on a single like news panel comedy thing. Nobody mentioned it. It was so bizarre. And I suspect it was the same when those nurses went to the bosses and said, "There's a man in our changing room," and they may have been kinder than that. Maybe said there's an AGP. I don't know. Maybe they didn't say pervert. I would have said pervert. Maybe they just said there's a man who thinks he's a woman, or they might have even used the word trans woman. But however carefully they worded it, people just heard, "Oh, bigots. Ah, women complaining. No, can't hear it." And I always make this reference and nobody ever gets it, but I'm going to make it again. In the film Splash, she's a mermaid, right? And she goes to say her name, and she sounds this weird high, she sounds like them. When they're messing around with their, like, "Ah!" And I swear, sometimes, when women speak about things that make us uncomfortable, that's how people in authority hear us, right? They don't hear language, they don't hear words, which is why I'm just going to say to any of you women, if you can get a man, get your child's father to go in and complain at the school, and it pains me to say this, do, because when men speak, apparently, it's just amazing. They use the same words and they mean a totally different thing. A man saying, "I don't want my daughter in a changing room with a boy who thinks he's a girl," is very different than which is what is heard when we talk about it. Because we're just, "Oh, shush now, you're just moan about anything." See, that's how they speak. Amazing. They're even trying to do impressions of our invisible voices. So great. So great. No, still. Enunciate. Separate words. Go on, try again. There's one word, then a space, then another, then a space. No. Oh, it's so much fun. It's so much fun. I was a younger sister. This just brings back so many happy memories of going into my sister's room for about 4 hours trying to choose a book that I was never going to read, just to hang out in her room and just watch her get more and more wound up. It's very similar. Anyway, so I think that, look, if you've got kids, that's what you need to do. If you've got an elderly parent or mother-in-law or relative that's in a hospital and you're concerned about her well-being on a ward, men, I beg of you, if you're asking I hear it all the time, men say, "What can we do?" That's what you can do. You can be an advocate for your female relatives, because us women, we don't want it to be true. I want to think if I go and use my very assertive, slightly lower voice, that somebody will listen to me, but they still don't. And I'm pretty forthright and assertive and very articulate when I'm angry. But if my husband just goes in and makes a simple request, which is what we had to do for our daughter when she was at primary school, he was just listened to straight away after months of me saying the same thing. He just had to say it once, and it just was taken far more seriously. No. I don't want a cookie. Nope, fella. Anyone else want to speak? Oh, yes.
Yes. Yes.
Right, hello everybody. I'm guessing there's a vast majority of you know who I am. My name's Lindsay and I'm the bigot that was banned from Newcastle United Football Club. Saying basically that trans women are men, which we all know they are, let's be honest. So yeah, everyone wanted me to get up and say a few words today. I don't really know what I'm going to talk too much about because the vast majority of it's already been out in the media. I think the latest update I can give you really is that Newcastle United have finally decided to take me seriously. So much so that they've asked for a 28-day extension to get their defence ready, which I granted, by the way, because it's a game of chess at the minute, you know. I'm a bigot. Yeah, so I'm also currently in the process of taking the Chief Constable of Northumbria Police to the High Court. Over two-tier policing as well.
Well done.
So I'm working very closely with Harry Miller of Faircop and a law firm there, and we plan on taking them to the High Court over the two-tier policing, and hopefully we're going to get judicial review in there and make sure that that gets stamped out immediately. And it's not just around gender ideology I feel with it, it is every ounce of politics within the police force. It is completely unnecessary. They are there to police without fear or favour, and that is the least we deserve as taxpayers.
Yes, well said, well said.
I don't really know what else, much more to say really, because I'm just looking forward to going to the pub.
Who is next? Yes.
We're going to come together. God, give two of them on the floor.
Right, you're going to have to shout then.
Oh well, hello. I'm so pleased that you all came today. This has been mine and Lindsay's dream. The location. This is all done an amazing job. I'm so proud of everybody who's helped me, including Turf Pug. Thank you, Loki. It's really good. He has been cheerleading all of the way. Thank you, everybody. It's been amazing. We have got big plans.
Well, I personally would like to get a group of people together for doing schools campaigns. Supposedly it was all, I think we were going to start in September, but then everything's kind of gone a bit west. So Joanna's over here. If anybody is keen and would like to be active, like actually active, going out on the streets, standing outside different schools, handing out leaflets, tackling people like that, I'm keen to get a team of people in Northumberland, in the northeast, ready to do that. So just Joanna's over there, it would be nice to do that. And thanks for coming to Morpeth.
Yeah, we've got a really good school. She's travelled so far. I am really keen for these events. The organising forms a team, and then from that the team can do good things, because I just don't want there to be a single woman who goes to her local swim, women only swim class or aquafit or whatever, and then she gets there and there's a man as part of that group using her changing room, and she doesn't know that there's anywhere she can turn. And so that's why we've changed Let Women Speak to proper putting in routes in various places all over the country, and we can only do that with local women. But every time we go anywhere, we meet women who didn't know anybody else knew about this, thought she was going a little bit mad, didn't realise that it was okay to say, well, I still think Dave is a bloke. Still don't want to see a penis in the female changing room. feel uncomfortable. And when everybody else turns around and gaslights her, I just want there always to be a place she knows she can turn. And I hope that's what Let Women Speak Locals really begins to do, because there are plenty of other groups that do lots of other great things, but we're just a little bit more right in your face. I don't want a defensive position. I want an offensive position. We want to be driving this forward to women. We don't want to sit back and wait for the next big slap in the face. Frankly, we want to be a bit more taekwondo or something around it.
Yeah, can you hear me? Thank you to all the lovely local women, because it's my first time even up to, and you've been all amazing and made me feel really welcome. I got up here really late last night by the crickets in London, so I was there too. We've got, well, I'll update you on some of the things we've been doing in Brighton, because we've been having a lot of little local things happening, but the group in Brighton has also been supporting each other to push some things, making the council accountable as well. And in January, there was a meeting about violence against women and girls and a new strategy in Brighton and Hove, and I couldn't make the meeting, so I put a little note, almost like a handout, and just to take to the meeting, that all it was asking was, as a survivor, I would like to have a female counsellor, and your council-run services should enable me to do that. But I'd been raising this because I'd been asking this and being pushed away around it, and these leaflets were snatched away from this consultation meeting. I was called a transphobe and a bigot, and we've gone through complaints, and I've tried to ask questions at council, and you wouldn't believe it that every single time they found a really good reason why I couldn't go and ask that question in the council, even though I wanted to go, and it's quite a courageous thing to do and go myself. And also, but finally, after I finally got a deputation in next week that I can read out. A deputation would just be raising asking this question to them directly. So we'll see how that goes, because they literally rejected for it being in the wrong font size. They rejected it because it didn't relate to an item on the agenda, which was about violence against women and girls. Now, just a bit, you know what Brighton's like. They're doing this new strategy. They're putting together a new strategy for violence against women and girls. But of course, their definition of who women and girls are includes anybody who may identify. So basically, we're also, in my deputation, I'm pointing it out to them that how can you have a violence against women and girls strategy that includes men and boys? This is what we're saying. So, and on the other thing, there's lots and lots of things around schools as well that we've been doing, and we've been highlighting. We've had one member of our group that was literally ejected from the council last year just for saying the words child safeguarding when referring to what's happening in schools around the trans toolkit, as you know, in Brighton has been rolled out to almost everywhere in the country. But all I'm going to say is there's some good news, because it's found to be, even the new version is found to be quite unlawful in some ways, so keep your eye on what's going on. And I just want to say that this is a power of locals, and I didn't know anyone in this area personally, and I came up all on my own by the crickets in London, and I just want to thank you, lovely local women, for making me feel so welcome, and the power of Let Women Speak.
Would anybody else like to speak? Yes.
Good afternoon, everyone. I think a lot of you know me. My name's Bex, and I've been in this. So I've been in this kind of debate for about 10 years, but I think like a lot of you, I actually started on the other side of the debate. I was very pro-trans for many years, and it was through Mumsnet and the many wonderful women on there. I'm sure that's some of you who changed my mind. And what really changed my mind though was of course Magdalene Burns. And if you're new to this debate, she is very much worth your time on YouTube. And then of course Kelly Jane, all the other wonderful women who have put in so much work. And of course I really want to give a shout out to the women of Mumsnet, who, so many women there who are going uncredited, who have put in so much work into this fight and to helping women like me understand it. And one of the things about this debate is, even though, I mean, we've heard some really horrible stories here today, but of course for me personally, so much good has come out of this. I've met the most amazing people from the past 10 years through this issue, and I really just wanted to celebrate that. So I've been writing a story about the friendship of this movement and the friendships I've made in the Northeast with many of you, and I'm going to be releasing it in a couple of weeks kind of as a novel. So it is fictional, because when I talk to people about this issue in real life, people who don't know what's going on, it sounds so hyperbolic that just people don't believe you, they think you're crazy. And basically they think you're making it up, they think you're exaggerating, and of course we're not. But it did get me thinking that actually a lot of this lends itself so well to fiction, lends itself so well to art. And we've heard some lovely poetry here today, and there's so much great poetry on Twitter as well. But I just want to say, like, I'm releasing my story, but I really want to hear other people's stories too, because I think that there's so much to say about this, and a way of engaging with people is by writing our stories, by writing our books, by making our films. And I would love to hear more of that from all of you.
So when we started Let Women Speak, like I said, it started in Nottingham actually. We're going to have our third celebration anniversary in Nottingham next February. And Let Women Speak just came from women shouting, because a lot of these, I don't know, for want of a better word, bellends, turned up to start shouting behind us, and they were as coordinated as these lot. And then the women started shouting, "Let women speak," which it's beautifully organic, it's very grassroots. And so we get to this point where we raise, this is raising consciousness, this is saying to everybody, it's ringing a loud bell, sounding the alarm, saying, do you know this is happening? Right? It's okay to be bothered. Do you know this is happening? Do you know what's going on in the school? Do you know what's going on in your hospitals? Do you know what's going on in your GP surgery? For example, when I complained about my GP surgery having a pronoun badge on the receptionist, I was told in a really like nah 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 way, we're all going to be wearing them soon, she said. She was so gleeful. I hope she chokes. So she was saying how they're all going to be wearing one, and they're all so gleeful. Can I just, I know that's not working. It is. Oh, okay, thanks. Anyway, so that's sounding the alarm, and then with that you've got to work out what can you do with it. You've got all these amazing women now who are eager, ready to do something, to take action. And so with Let Women Speak, like the ladies of Northumberland have just talked about, we've got a number of things you can do. We've got a lot of materials and packs that you can have to go and stand outside of schools and tell people what's going on. And can I just recommend that you don't stand outside of your own children's school, because the last thing you want, and the reason maybe sometimes we don't talk about what's going on, is we're worried about the repercussions for those that we care about. So what you do is you give somebody else all the information. and then you swap. Although I will be coming into your daughter's school. I'll be flying up next time though. I'm not gonna drive ever again. And then we have a political party. And why have we got a political party? Well, to disrupt. To enable us to have the conversations. Now, loads of people are like, oh, you didn't get very many votes. In fact, I got the fewest out of everybody who stood in my own party, but that will serve me right for going to Bristol. I think I could have only done worse if I'd gone to Brighton. But the beauty of it was, I got to sit next to the smuggest of smug-faciest Liberal Democrats who posed a question that nobody had ever asked, certainly not to him, and he was like, no, we're all here to ask what is a woman, and as a gay man I was thinking, yeah, you know exactly what a woman is as a gay man. I'm pretty sure you've never actually dated a woman. But anyway, it just gave me the opportunity to sit in that place, on that stage, in a hustings, and say the things that we're not normally allowed to say, that people have given up saying because it gets too difficult. I'm sure even if you have conversations with people you know, before you say some of the things that are true that you could have said 10 years ago without so much as taking a breath, we now kind of hesitate a little bit. Oh, what? So yesterday when I was talking to the lady when I was buying some makeup, not that I wear any, but I was buying some makeup and she said, oh, what do you do? And I said, well, I'm up here to talk in Morpeth women's rights. And she said, oh yeah, like what? And I was like, oh, because I'm trying to buy some makeup. And so I just told her, and she was fully on board. But sometimes you sort of say, well, women's rights, you know, and I'll be in a clothes shop and I'll say, well, like a woman's right to come into your clothes shop, and I dress in clothes shops. I go to clothes shops now for women of a certain age, and I was in this particular one. She said, "Oh yeah, well, you know, I like to look after all our customers," and I'm like, "It's phase 8. Surely most of your customers are like 50-year-old and older women." I mean, I've been shopping there a long time because they do a fabulous jumpsuit. But most of the shoppers there are going to be 50-year-old women or above, or men that spend too much time in the changing rooms and don't buy anything. Why are you looking after those men? And she was like, oh, I'd include everyone. And the young gay guy working there said, I totally agree with you. I don't think they should be allowed in the store. And the woman's like glaring at him. But I just think even in that situation, she might not have ever heard anyone who says, actually, I think it's really wrong. I think it's bad for your female customers who come in here, that you put them off and maybe they don't come in again. Maybe they think, well, I want to try something on, but I don't feel safe, so I'd rather go to a different shop, rather than the one that enables AGPs to come and spend a long fantasy time in a changing room. So I just think we all have a duty. If you can speak up at all, you have a duty to really annoy everyone that you know and speak up as often as possible, because it might take just that one final sentence, that one final thing that you say to make them understand that it is okay to object to men trying to erase our boundaries. Okay, Liz. Oh, we got another candidate.
Hello. Right, my name is Liz Panton and I was one of the 16 candidates in the general election for the Party of Women. And I would encourage everybody who is interested in this to have a go. There were 16 of us, we'd never done it before, we had an amazing amount of support. There were people helping us who stood as candidates for other political parties, who were agents for other political parties. We had support from Kelly J, who did Zoom. It's unbelievable. I don't know how, I was like, no, we don't know how she does this. She'd have a supportive Zoom with us for an hour and be like, Mrs. Normal. And then 5 minutes later, she's on YouTube going, hello, I'm Kelly J. And it's just great. So one of the good things about if you stand for a political party in the general election is the Royal Mail will deliver your leaflets for free. You have to pay to get them printed, but they are delivered for free. I don't give a stuff that I lost my £500 deposit, because what it would have cost to have had these leaflets delivered to every household in Newcastle East and Wallsend would have been over £3,000. It's bloody good value for money. The leaflets have to be approved by the Royal Mail. Nobody can tell you that this is an illegal leaflet. And if they try, like the police in Sheffield, they're going to find out they're wrong. So one of these leaflets goes into every house. Now, people might say, well, what does it matter? There might be people in that house who are not yet of voting age. What I would like to see is every election, every opportunity, we get leaflets through people's doors. There's a 16 or 17-year-old there. By the time they're old enough to vote, they want to be thinking, the Party of Women is a thing. It's not the first time I've ever heard about it. In Newcastle East and Wallsend, I didn't get a huge number of votes, but I beat the Communist Party. I beat the SDP. These are parties that have existed for donkey's years. Party of Women has existed since February 2024. First 5 women who stood in local elections, May 2024. 16 women standing in the general election in July. It's fucking amazing! Do it! Find out when your local councils have a vacancy, and when it comes up, get ready for the general election. It was sprung on us, so we didn't have people already that would say you have to have yourself and 9 people to nominate you that live where you're standing. You need to get those names now, not go scratching around for them at the last minute. It's not just you that's standing, you need your support team. And we need to start now. And we can build on Let Women Speak by finding people who are interested. So I would say, as well as joining Let Women Speak, join the Party of Women and get prepared to stand, because we are needed.
Okay, so I just want to say another big fat thank you to all of the women who have spent weeks organising this. Have just been so incredible. So thank you to them. And thank you to all the police who may have been peaked this afternoon. And thank you to my good, badly dressed friends who have been up in the balcony seats. They're slightly cheaper seats. They don't get such a good view or anything, but they've been really vocal. So thanks, guys. Thank you. Thanks. You make us look great. And can I say to the person that's brought young children, shame on you.
Exactly. I was just about to say that.
No mother brings their child to protest women speaking.
Exactly.
Absolutely disgusting. Shame. Okay, to the rest of us. To the pub. Fabulous headband. They keep on about legend. I'm not that big. Okay, if you can come and stand in the pigging cold and speak about your rights in the shadows of such an incredible woman, then I promise we will win. If you could come and really enjoy yourself while you're doing it, then I promise we will win. And do you know why else we're going to win? Do you know why else we're going to win? Why? This is pantomime, people. Because I never lose.
you need for the
Posy Parker.
Go guys, what a turnout. Hello ladies.
It's like Vic Reeves, isn't it?
I don't know. They don't usually say night horror, and then.
Kept the plug on me, started standing.
But at the moment, I mean, I think that's just the fundamental thing. And recognition that, you know, I think fundamental recognition that.
Aye, gone on.
You know, maybe getting in, especially if you're local, maybe getting in some of our.
He's not. I've just moved up here, but still working for him. But yeah,
And then the Premier used to do a secret investigation where they found images of where I used to walk my dog. They found it in the church that had walked past them.
Thank you for coming here.
Nice.
Kids who get picked on at school.
Dan? Yeah.
Yes, well, I'm Lindsay. Nobody thinks I'm
I'm just going to say me goodbyes, guys. 2 seconds. Right, Linz, I'm away.
Thank you for coming.
Oh, you're very welcome. Lovely to see you again. Aye, keep in touch, and if you need us to come out anywhere else, I'll be there for you.
Thank you. We are got the water fence for one if anybody wants to come and join with. So that's.
Hang around for 5, see how it happens, and then I'm away.
I'll kick off.
I think they want us to leave, and then I don't know if they're going first. I don't know what they're doing. Are they keeping them there, or
I don't know. You see the bends.
I know
Unreal, absolutely unreal.
Oh, it's very sick, very sick.
The one with the child?
Yeah, she knows. She knows. Looks like she's got like an autistic child with her as well, with the headphones on.
Right, as away. Right, yeah, what you doing? Lovely to see you. You take care. See you later. Oh, all right. I'll see you later. That is, aye. Very, very. No, they're too proud to show their faces, you know what I mean? Standing there and making the point.
Show us your face, come on.
You can't be asking people to take off their clothes and replace you in.
Look at you!
As if you'd want to see that with the clothes off.
That's bad. That's not keeping her safe at all.
Well, there we go, guys. That one. Hope the live stream was working anyway for you. Nice. I couldn't really tell. I'm using this StreamYards or whatever it's called instead of straight on my YouTube, but Morpeth Court. No building. Well, there we go, guys. I thought I'd do my little bit today, come out and help the ladies. You know, I've got to admit, the Mockingjay's Rebels on the roundabout, all the ladies from day one with these protests. Absolutely amazing. More women out than men. Well, it was a different kind of an event there. Something a bit different for us and for the viewers. So anyway, I'd just like to thank all these my new subscribers lately. All my new subscribers, new and old. Absolutely fantastic, guys. You're the legends. Check the... Oh, I've just put my chat on. Yeah, Mark, I'm at... where am I at? I'm at Morpeth. I'm at Morpeth. Everything came... Oh, cheers, Manda. Thank you, thank you. It's a pity I didn't have time to hang about longer, like, because it's a lovely... I mean, that park behind us where we were, that looks beautiful inside there. But skies are getting sprayed while we were stood there. You know what I mean? Chem sprays our Morpeth. Right, what a lovely little town. Beauty, beauty. Well, there's something a bit different for you guys anyway. Oh, Kev signing out. Till the next one. Peace, love and respect, guys. Make sure you all stay safe out there. Take care. I'll see you all soon.